Acho que é bom.
Okay.
We start.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, we start. Começou? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's a pleasure. Good afternoon and good night someplace. Today is a very important day because we have a special day for the live in Ircad, America Latina. Today is a very nice. We are here with two special guests, Professor Jack Marisco and Professor Alexandre. So it's a very nice to have you here with us. It's our third live. It's important because this live is the first time that you have translation for Spanish today, and how you have translation for Portuguese and Spanish. And this is the idea to connect everybody, and especially we have transmission also for in web page from Ircad Taiwan and Ircad Africa and live in Ircad France also. So all the Ircads are connected today for this day. So this is the idea, to connect everybody, to talk about the new possibilities, how to improve new technologies in minimally invasive surgery, in all the possibilities to give for the people, for the person, how to do the best procedure to treat the disease and to become better their lives. So this is the idea. So I'd like to invite Professor Melani. He is the director of Ircad America Latina, to explain, to introduce all the special guests today. So Armando, now it's your time. So thank you.
We don't hear you. Microphone.
Thank you, Luis, for your kind introduction. It's a great pleasure being here today. Good night, Asia. Good evening, Europe. Good morning, America. We are all connected together for a special session today. We are going to hear about the past, and we are going to hear about the future, how to build innovation, how to create new things. So this is why you have today nothing more than Professor Jack Marisco, president of Ircad, and also Alexander Hostetter is the chief of the R&D department of Ircad. And with those guys, we are going to explain a little bit and discuss about the past and the future. Talking about the past, I just share with you a moment, and let's go back in the time. I want to go back in 2001. So 2001. Well, where we were in 2001, I was with starting laparoscopy surgery, in fact, rectal cancer surgery. But we had the launch of XP from Microsoft. We had the launch of Xbox. We had this brand new cell phone. No, do you remember that? The flip one from Motorola? Well, if you want to hear music, we have a big novelty for you. We have this thing where you can hear 8 megabytes of music. Wow, it's an amazing storage for MP3 music. So this was 2001. I unfortunately cannot reproduce the sound of the modem to connect to the internet, but this was the way that we used to connect to internet. Well, everybody dial a number and we connect to the net, and was very, very fast, if you remember. Well, in this time, we are surprised by this kind of news. Someone decided to do surgery from New York to operate a patient in France. By the way, this is the unique surgical article published in Nature. Well, and you can see...
You do have to see to believe. Doctors in New York performed surgery on a patient in France.
Puis je vous le disais en titre, une première en matière médicale. Le chirurgien a opéré de New York une patiente qui se trouvait à Strasbourg.
Surgeons in New York used a robot to remove the gallbladder of a woman in France in the world's first long-distance operation.
Doctors won't even have to leave the house. Really? Just do it right from the computer.
Every day something new.
It is, absolutely. It's amazing.
린드버그의 이름을 딴 이번 수술의 성공으로 이제 환자들은 세계 유명 의사들로부터 먼 거리에서도 수술을 받는 게 가능해졌습니다. 파리에서 MBC 뉴스 전영배입니다.
Well, let us start with the first phase of... Oh, before that, Jack, can you tell us a little bit about the idea behind of this surgery? You were a robotic surgery almost 20 years ago. We did this 19 years ago. 19 years ago. Well, with this first phase of robotic tool, this computer motion robot. Can you explain for us a little bit about this concept and idea?
Yeah,
please.
So,
I welcome.
Yeah, so thank you, because when I look at this video from 20 years old, I think it's very funny. It looks for me yesterday. So, you know, I discovered the robot in 1991. So it's a long time ago. I was a visiting professor in Stanford. And at this period, Rick Satava, Bowersox, they have developed the first prototype of robot it was at the beginning for the US Army. And I remember very well when I came back in Strasbourg, I was totally impressed by this new technology. And so, because I like challenge, we discussed with all my coworkers, and we say, because we can have a robot, because we can have a long distance connection, why we cannot imagine to apply telemedicine to surgery? That is the definition of telesurgery. And the definition of telesurgery is to share the knowledge, to share the intelligence, but also to share the gestual, the procedure. And that was totally impossible at this period. Everybody said it is totally impossible. Why? Because all the long distance, the remote connection were done by satellite. And you know that the satellite has a delay of 600 milliseconds. To explain what is a delay, when we look at CNN, for example, you have no... when the journalist speaks, you have not a good synchronization between the movement of the lips and the voice. That is 600 milliseconds due to the satellite. And we know by the US Army work that it is impossible to operate, to do a surgical procedure with such a delay of 600 milliseconds. Because, you know, you look at that, when you think that you dissect around the artery, with 600 milliseconds, when you think that you are outside of the artery, and when you cut, you can be inside the artery. So you can do a big mistake. And that was proven by the US Army that we need to have a delay less than 200 milliseconds. And at this period, it was totally impossible. So it was very funny because that was the first challenge, the first technical challenge, the problem of delay. We spoke with the US Army, it was impossible. We spoke with a lot of telecom company in France. And one company, France Telecom, said the only way is to use a transatlantic cable. That is a technology whose name was ATM. And with this kind of technology, two young engineers of France Telecom arrived to overcome the challenge with a delay of 132 milliseconds. And that is very interesting today because everybody speaks about how perhaps we are going to do a remote surgery, long distance surgery with a 5G. But the 5G today, it is 200 milliseconds of delay. And we imagine that 20 years ago, it was 132 milliseconds of delay. So that was the first challenge to solve.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm going to present just the first phase of your surgery, what you have done. I believe that's very nice because we can illustrate this with images, and you can record your own videos because this is a history. So
that is a little wide.
The latest data from the United States Army, which dates back a few months, explains that a long-distance surgical procedure is not possible beyond 500 kilometers as long as the issue of time delay has not been resolved. In our
I have no image. No. We have the sound, but not the picture.
Okay, 1 second. I will be back. I know why. Oh, not this one. Can you see it?
The latest data from the United States Army, which dates
back... you need to share your screen.
Share your screen.
Here is not.
This is my mistake. I'm sorry.
Okay, this is the problem of technology.
Yeah, but you know, there is a kind of whiteboard. I never saw that, and I clicked this, unfortunately. But
yes.
now,
okay, done.
Now we go.
The latest data from the United States Army, which dates back a few months, explains that a long-distance surgical procedure is not possible beyond 500 kilometers as long as the issue of time delay has not been resolved. In our
You saw the building behind of Ircad? It doesn't exist anymore. Alexander, can you see that?
And the Ircad is also totally changed.
experience, such technological problems have been totally solved, and long-distance surgery is thus made possible.
Well, we saw you doing this experimental validation. How many people you gather together to do this in France? How many people working in France?
Yeah, so it's a long story because image you see was beginning of 2001, but we start in 1994. You have to imagine it was a long project. It was 7 years of work. And I remember the origin, it's very funny. We were looking to have a grant, a European grant. And we had written a very nice project for laparoscopic surgery, etc. And when I had the interview with the agency, given the money, given the grant, they say, no, you need to have something, we need to dream. And today, if you don't put the name robot, impossible to have money. So that was 1994. So I say, you want a robot, you want to dream, I'm going to written a project between the first transatlantic operation between New York and Strasbourg. So that was the real beginning of the story. But you imagine,
you did that for money.
As everything. Because I am nearly a Brazilian. So to be serious, the problem was that we did, at this period, all the robot, when you wanted to pilot the robot, the connection was just a cable. It was not optical fiber. It was a mechanical connection with a cable. So we need to change.
The robot available was computer motion. That was the
at this period, it was Zeus. It was computer motion. And so it was a connection with a cable. That means you had the order, you pilot the robot, but it was a connection with a cable. And we had to convince the big boss of computer motion, the CEO, Bob Dugan, to transform this kind of robot and to do a robot with a fiber optical connection. So it was not so easy. So the name is Bob Dugan. I invited Bob Dugan in Strasbourg. I tried to convince him. It was not so easy. It was very funny. We were in a Windstube that you know, chez Yvonne, very famous Windstube, where all the chief of state were in France. And he said, yeah, there is no market for remote surgery today. It's a big and very expensive project. So I said, it's a pity because we wanted to call this experience, this pilot study, Lindbergh operation. So when Lindbergh, he wake up, he said, wow, Lindbergh operation. Yes, that's a good idea. And so that was chez Yvonne. So jet lag plus alcohol, plus to try to convince it was done. And I remember that with the University of San Francisco, Mathematics of San Francisco, they developed a specific robot for a Lindbergh operation. And it was the first robot with connection with fiber optics. So that was, the first challenge is always link between men. It's not, as you say, the problem of money, the problem of technology. No, it has to be the decision of somebody who is responsible.
Well, they were bought in 2002 by Intuitive, no?
Yes.
Computer motion. Yes. And probably it's because Lindbergh surgery. Because nowadays, the robot that we use with Intuitive, they are all optical.
Always, yes.
And the development for your surgery probably is one of the reasons why they bought computer motion.
You know, at the opposite of what you say, at this period, they had no notion of money because we had no patent for that, but it was effectively the first time we transformed the concept of the robot with fiber optic. And it is the reason why today in the operating room, you have two master parts of the robot connected together because it is fiber optic. And if you can connect two master parts of the robot in the same room, you can do that with a long distance. So that was really, I think, a very important mutation in robotic surgery.
You told me that you started this project 7 years before the surgery. So when you start to discuss with Bob Dugan and how much time was necessary to build this robot?
It was nearly 6 years because we invited Bob in 1995. At this period, we had Robert Zeus. You know, we published, that is very funny, we published the first series of 100 patients in 1997. First 100 patients operated with a robot. So that was 23 years ago. And so we convinced Bob in 1995. And after that, it was nearly 6 years before we were able to do the operation. And we will see that we start, you know, the first video you have just shown now was a simulation of the operation just between Strasbourg and Paris. So it was 1,000 kilometers because you have to go and to go back with the data. So that was the first. We are going, I think, to see the second one on animal, and that was done between New York and Strasbourg. And after that, the third phase was on a patient. But all the project started at the end of 1994, and we just do that in September 2001.
So before you do a patient in Strasbourg, you did an animal from New York.
We did. No, first of all, the video we have seen, it was from Paris to Strasbourg.
Yeah, one
and after that, the second phase.
The next one.
Ben oui, bien sûr. Moi, je te vois bouger. No, I think that we see very well. He's moving. Stop.
Yeah, mais ça marche, mais je veux augmenter la puissance, mais je ne veux pas augmenter trop de puissance.
Operation on a pig, more than 100 persons were involved. You imagine that, because we had 80 engineers from France Telecom, we had the team of computer motion, we have the University of San Francisco, we have the team of surgeons in Strasbourg and in New York. So it's very funny to see that. I think it's the first time I look again this video since 15 years.
Well, this is for you to remember the challenge that you have and how much you achieve with this. And well, you said that 100 people, but before that, how you connect? Well, they use a special cable for you, and
yes.
how
there were two
people to put this line for you.
That is also a political influence, because we had also the visit at this period of President Chirac. He was president of France at this period. He visited Ircad during more than 2 hours. He was really impressed and fascinated by the project of remote surgery, so he supported us a lot. And that was the reason why it was possible for us to have for free this cable of France Telecom, transatlantic cable, because normally you can just rent this cable for 6 months minimum, and it was $1 million at this period. So you imagine it was impossible for Ircad to pay that. So due to the influence of our president, we had all that for free. And it is very funny also because we are going to see the phase 3 based on the patient. And, you know, we were to do that. We were in the subsidiary of France Telecom in New York, whose name was Equan, because no hospital has ATM line. So we need to be in this kind of building. And this building was empty since April 2001. And President Chirac pushed them to keep the building until Lindbergh operation was finished. So for 4 months, they have the building also. So just to explain, I'm not a politician. I never will do politics, but I was always in all my projects supported by a lot of politicians.
Well, you have a special feature to put and gather people together, and to look for aim at the end of the tunnel. And so, and I believe that when you accomplish this validation, was really a special moment for you. But your next phase is going to be to operate a patient. And tell me how you convince the patient to be operated, well, from a surgeon in another place of the earth. What you told to the patient?
Okay, so you imagine it's not so easy. It's not so easy because it was a simple operation. It was a laparoscopic cholecystectomy. And I remember that I convinced 3 patients, but we had only the right to do 1 operation by the ethical committee. And I remember the first patient that I have seen, I wanted to explain that, and I didn't arrive. That means I spoke about the operation, but I said, no, I cannot explain because it is so crazy to explain to my patient that I have to take the plane to go in New York to operate her, and she will still be in Strasbourg. So I didn't arrive. And 2 days after the consultation, I say to my secretary, please give me the patient by phone. So I call the patient and I say, I would like to speak a little more about this operation, if you can come back. So she arrived and she said, it was funny because it was some months after the visit of President Chirac, the last visit, and she said, I know what you are going to ask me. I know. You want to operate me from New York, because she has read that on the newspaper. And I said, yes, it's exactly that. So we were in Ircad. She has seen the robot. She was a very nice mommy, and she said, yes, I know. I use also a robot to do my cake. So it was very funny. And she said, I am sure that it is a good operation for me because so many people are going to look at this operation. So you need to have a success. So I totally agree. And so it's the reason why we have chosen this patient for this operation. And she was really very proud. She had after that a lot of interview by the TV, etc., about the operation she has accepted to do.
That is really, really great. You touched point an important one related to the question of people being convinced, but also the support behind related to the law. So Olivier was your lawyer at that time, or was another person?
No, it was the boss of Olivier Bilger at this period. But also the legal issue has been very complex. You imagine that everything was done, and at the last moment, 4 days before the operation, the FDA sent us a letter to say that it will be totally forbidden to do this operation from America to France. So we were very surprised.
You cannot do that.
No, she said no. You have not the authorization to do that. So I didn't understand. I called the FDA because the robot has a CE mark. The patient was French. I was a French surgeon doing the operation. And they say, yes, but you are doing that from the American area, so it is forbidden. So I remember I called the General Secretary of the Palace of Élysée, of Chirac, to say, you imagine, we work on that since 6 years, and now it's forbidden to do. So the secretary said, I'm going to speak with the president, and we will have a solution. And half an hour after, he called me again. He said, I spoke to the president. It's very simple. You say to the FDA, if we have not the authorization to do that from the United States area, we will do that from the Washington embassy because it is a French territory. But we have to explain what you want, and you will be totally ridiculous. And so 3 hours after, we had the authorization to do the operation. That's also something very funny, again, to explain how important is very often the politics support that we can have in a project.
Well, that is a great history because, we never understand this very, very well. In fact, all of these things that happen behind of the scenes, some complications and some ways to facilitate what you have to do. But it looks like you have some facilitation, but a lot of difficulties also. Do you have another difficulty that because I can imagine you living in Strasbourg, catching a plane to arriving in New York, understanding what we are gonna do. What was your feeling that time? I believe it was about 10, maybe 8 hours flight. What was your thought during this time?
Horrible one, because the first thing is that you say the patient trust in what I have said, because I think I trust in the technology. But what happened in case? But everything was very well organized. You know that Professor Leroy and one American fellow was in the operating room in Strasbourg. So we had no risk because they had the control of one pedal. And in case of anything arriving, they can totally cut immediately the link between New York and Strasbourg, and they were able to continue the operation. So for the patient, there was really absolutely zero risk. So the risk was just what I can call a risk of image, to be ridiculous, because, not to succeed something after 6 years. And it was done. It was 45 minutes. And, at the end of this 45 minutes, it was, just to imagine what now is the next challenge to survive.
Wow, that is amazing. So let us see what you did.
Represents a formidable
7th September 2001. Remarkable day. Let us see what you have done.
We have now determined that despite long-distance telesurgery, all the benefits of robot-assisted surgery are preserved. This represents a formidable advantage.
Et il faudrait se brancher au fait le téléphone. Bonsoir. Lame de bistouri.
We'll begin here. Go.
Et je voudrais un place pour
So that was a setting of the robot by Joël Leroy.
Ouais.
That was a building. before it was closing.
On the left side, you have the 5mm grasper. Okay. Okay.
Le rôle de l'équipe sur place, c'était de reproduire exactement ce qui avait été appris.
The local surgical team's role was to replicate exactly what they had been practicing for several months in order to safely complete the procedure, as it was done.
Are you ready now? Okay, so I would like to test the coagulation, please. J'ai l'impression que l'image, ça fait très verticale, la vésicule.
Oui, parce qu'elle est poussée vers le haut.
Il faudrait que tu dissèques plus près du duodénum, entre le duodénum et le collet.
So you see Joël Leroy was just sitting down. He was not near the patient. No, stop.
Il fallait qu'il y ait un délai, c'est-à-dire un délai de réponse.
The time delay should allow for an adequate surgeon's response. That is the time comprised between the order given by the surgeon to the virtual instruments and the time when the surgeon witnesses what the robot has done. Work by the United States Army had proven that this delay should be a maximum of 150 to 200 milliseconds. The impressive technical operation with a consistent time delay of 135 milliseconds. That's what we succeeded in doing. This was well within the normal response time for the surgeon.
Très bien. Non, tire pas trop comme ça. Lève plutôt vers la gauche. Tu vois, donc tu étais un petit peu haut tout à l'heure. Hein, et c'est normal, il y a des adhérences. Et on va...
The image quality had to be as close to the images achieved in the operating room as possible. That is, to compare it to the everyday images seen in laparoscopy.
You too. Yes, 1 millimeter size.
Cette chirurgie à distance, cette téléchirurgie.
Long-distance surgery or telesurgery is a new surgical revolution, assuredly one of the biggest surgical revolutions ever. Americans used to say that in 1989 the Second French Revolution occurred at the time when surgery had become totally different. Surgery was performed by opening the patient's abdomen or the patient's thorax, and all of a sudden it became a minimally invasive surgery. A camera and a laparoscope were introduced through a small 10-millimeter trocar. Surgery became less traumatic, and this is because it was performed via the introduction of a laparoscope and viewed on a TV screen. Because of the use of video imaging, surgery could then be performed over a distance. As a matter of fact, a long-distance surgeon was able to see just as well as the surgeon in the operating room. Hence the concept of computer-assisted surgery was born. A distance of 5 meters had already been achieved in the operating room, with the surgeon performing the operation in a corner of the operating room. Then the next developments were ahead. If the operation was made possible at 5-meter distance, then it was also possible at 1,000 kilometers or even 10,000 kilometers, and then it could be performed on a transcontinental basis.
Okay.
No coagulation, please. No, attends, stop just a minute. I want to see if we can see if the cystic duct is finished to be dissected.
Yes, it's good.
I think it is.
Yeah.
That's really strange. Yes.
Le type d'opération qui a été choisi pour cette première
The type of procedure chosen for this first transatlantic robot-assisted operation was a fairly simple surgical procedure considered standard of care in minimally invasive surgery. Minimally invasive surgery being defined as a surgery performed with the use of a camera, a laparoscope, and video monitors. The procedure was feasible because the surgeon was not forced to travel from New York to Strasbourg to perform the operation on the patient. It was nevertheless the best way to prove that this operation, which had become a standard of care in minimally invasive surgery, could also become a standard of care in long-distance surgery while still assuring patient safety. I think that the first practical utilization in the field of telesurgery will be the birth of telementoring and the demise of substandard individualism in the daily practice of surgeons and surgical teams.
Okay, I think we can stop the video. Very emotional moment for me. I've not seen these videos since a long time.
Well, tell me, what was your feeling in this very last seconds when you just finished to remove the gallbladder?
I think it was, because I think the nervous stress was so high. As you say, just after the big travel in New York, etc. And what I remember really very well is that the team of 4 or 5 engineers from France Telecom, New York, they were in the room, and at the end they cried. You imagine? They cried because for an engineer to be involved in something about healthcare, it's something exceptional. And for them, for all the team, it was such a challenge at this period. You have to imagine it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, who would imagine to do the total remote surgery? So that was a very, very, very emotional moment, sure.
Well, I can imagine how it was. And I really understand that after this accomplishment and this procedure, Ircad continue and move to perform innovation and to do science. And I believe that you always in the tip of this word of this kind of development, because Ircad, as you know, is considered the mecca for MIS surgery. And I believe that the majority of the surgeons around the world went there to be trained or to see what you were doing and your team was doing in that time. And this is why you decide to split this concept all over the world. But it was only not only about to receive all of this good will, but also a little bit of jokes. And I want to just to share with you probably something that is Alex is working nowadays. Besides, it was a comment in 2001. Well, let us see here.
With Jay Leno, featuring Kevin Eubanks of The Tonight Show There, and me, I'm Ed Hall.
Hey, here's an amazing story. Here is an amazing story. Surgeons in New York City used a remote-controlled robot to remove the gallbladder of a woman in France. You following me here? From monitors, TV monitors in New York working the controls, they were able to use the robot in France to remove her gallbladder. In fact, right now, as I'm standing here, there's a doctor in Belgium checking my prostate. Right now.
Well, it looks like crazy, but nowadays, in this pandemic world, we are doing a lot of things by teleconference. But I don't know if someone is checking my prostate now. But, from that concept, what you decide to change in Ircad? What was your next move? You did something that was really outstanding. And so what was your next move?
So the next move, and I think after that, I think Alex is going to explain, the next step at this period in Ircad in between 1994 and 2000, we had a very, very little team of engineers. But you know, the fact to discuss with engineers during these 6 years of work, I have really understood that to be a strong institute in minimal invasive surgery and in the development of new technology, it was very important to have more engineers, researchers, developers than surgeons. I always say one brain of surgeon plus one brain of surgeon, it is only one brain, because we have the same culture, we think about the same thing. When you have a team of young engineers, it's totally changed. So with the engineer, we have developed, and that is certainly what Alex is going to speak about, the concept of virtual reality, augmented reality, which is for me the only step to imagine one day an automatic surgery. And certainly one day surgery will be automatic, like aeronautics first, like a car today, it will be for surgery too. We have developed with engineers, I remember also the first total no scar surgery, that was Anubis operation with the transvaginal, the first transvaginal cholecystectomy. So that is a concept of Ircad, is to challenge. Every time when somebody says that is impossible, we want to show that that is possible, and to share with a team between researchers, engineers, surgeons to accomplish to try to accomplish the next step. You know, example, the first transvaginal no scar surgery, we were very proud about. But we have seen it was a no sense. We stopped after 100 patients because it is better to do one transumbilical one, or you know, you have micro instrument, etc. But we need, in a university environment, we need to change the things. We need to change, to be totally open-minded concerning new technology. And the only way for us to do that is to have an environment of scientists. And as a surgeon, we are not scientists. We don't know the limit. We don't know exactly. We have just the idea of something, and we have the sense of challenge.
How you hired Alex? How you met him? How it was?
I think in a bar, but I don't remember because I was drunk.
You can tell us this history, probably.
Alex, you know, certainly.
That's really not a fair remark. No, I think that's a very good point to just to say a few words about what I've just seen now, about the past of Ircad, about the past of this first institute localized in France, and then all the others. And just would like to say a word to say that how proud we are to work in this institute, and I think that I can speak as if I was I can speak for all the people in the team. So really, we are really impressed by what has been done in the past, and we truly believe that with this kind of person, with the vision of Professor Maresco and also the other surgeons, then it's really the best approach to try to create stuff for the future. Just a few words about this, just as an introduction. And if you want to...
Alexander, tell me, when you get into Ircad and how you met Giacomo Maresco?
Yes, it was the second point of my introduction. I just want to say a few words also. I think that's mandatory, that's logical. It's a question of respect. I want to talk about Luc Soler. I mean, he was the first in the team to lead the R&D department. I mean, today, of course, it's easier to do what we do thanks to all the work that has been done in the past with this amazing contribution, amazing work. It was an amazing leader. Yeah, he was my leader during many years. I have learned so many things thanks to him. So I would like just to say how we respect him. And you know, that's one of the first things that he tried to do is to help the surgeon using virtual reality and augmented reality. And one of his dreams was to be able to create a 3D modeling of the patient in order to be able to understand what is the relative position between the different structures. I mean, vascularization, I don't know, maybe the liver, its vascularization, bile duct, tumor, that is for us just, let's say, a target. And I remember that it was the purpose of his PhD thesis, so now it's a long time ago. And one of his numerous dreams was to be able to provide this 3D modeling to the patient. And so impossible to don't talk about the Visible Patient Company that is today a real success. And it's clearly one of the first very important steps to be able to provide intraoperative guidance to the surgeon in the upper room. So today, thanks to this company that has been created by Ircad, of course, it's possible to extract from a 3D image a 3D modeling, a 3D virtual clone of the patient. And this virtual clone is really mandatory if you want to help the surgeon intraoperatively. Just so. And so, of course, now you understand that the first person that I met actually in Ircad was Luc Soler. Actually, he was sometimes he given courses in the engineer school, and so I don't remember if I was there for all the different courses, but at least at the last one. And I have talked about potential training period, and he has given me the opportunity to belong to this institute. So initially, I was motivated, but I didn't really know the institute. And after a few months, it was just a kind of drink. You know, I was working, 12, 14 hours a day, just because it was just for the pleasure, you know. And I remember that sometimes when I left Ircad at 8 o'clock, they say, "What are you doing here? You're just a student." And I was a bit afraid that maybe this training period was going to be stopped at the end of the 6 months. And so for me, it was really a good opportunity to take pleasure, to learn a lot of things. Also with Clément Forest. Clément Forest was a polytechnician, you know, was the most famous school of engineering in France. And it was also one of the very, very important person that helped me in the past to be higher, and also to increase my skills. So I want to show them a lot of respect and to say how I know why they are so important for me. And there is also the famous Professor Maresco, but I mean, of course, Professor Maresco.
Don't forget it.
He has created everything. So I mean, without Professor Maresco, I don't even know if there was a cathedral in Strasbourg.
Oh. So tell us now. Nowadays,
what?
Yeah, tell me. Nowadays, you are in charge of all R&D department. You have a subsidiary in Africa, and you work with a lot of engineers together. How it is your day-by-day work with the surgeons? How the questions come? Someone come to you and say, "Oh, I have this problem, and I want to do that." And how it is?
No, they do not say I want. They do not say I want to do that. I think that's Professor Maresco made a mistake before, because he said that surgeons, they are not able to understand where are the limits. But that's not exactly the truth. Actually, people like Jacques Maresco say, "Oh, Alex, there is no limit. Why do you talk about limits?" So they don't say. They don't want him to have a limit, you know. They just want to say there is no limit, and that if you are able to work more, if it's mandatory, then it's possible to do everything that we need. So actually, the surgeon have a lot of dreams, and it's true that sometimes it's extremely hard for us to provide what they want. But thanks to this, daily collaboration, they understand what is possible, what is not, and I really feel like today we have reached a certain kind of maturity, and I feel like now we have been able to reach this kind of let's say a balance, and they are able to ask things that we can provide them. But they still have a lot of ideas, and Jacques Maresco say that technically a surgeon is not exactly the same as an engineer, but of course without the good question, without the good problem, it's just impossible to work. And that's really unique in the world, actually, to be able to have this kind of collaboration. Because, you know, as a researcher, as engineers, when we have a problem, well, we can find a solution. So there are some limit, there are something that we must respect. And this collaboration is just amazing. And when we are talking with other research company, we really feel this lack of a relationship between the medical staff and the scientific one.
Well, you spoke about Luc Soler. He was the first leader R&D in Ircad. He developed the 3D modeling, the Visible Patient. That is a company now. I believe that get out of Ircad, spin up. And the dream of Jack and the team of Ircad was to do a augmented surgery. So they did a 3D modeling. They tried to apply to a real patient, and you were involved in this development after the 3D modeling, trying to apply this modeling to a real patient, and you got a lot of challenge, and a lot of work developed after that was done by your team. So tell me, which is the most, you touch a point very important. When you are an engineer behind the desk, you cannot imagine the real day-by-day work, but getting to the OR, working together with doctors inside the operation room, does it make a difference for you and in trying to develop these things, or this is not, it's possible to develop this behind of the desk? What do you think?
Of course, you need both. You cannot work without a computer, but you can also not work without a surgeon. I just would like to tell you a story that is extremely funny. When I was younger, I mean something such as 25 years old, one of the first surgeons I have worked with was Antonello Foggioli.
Yeah, Antonello. Hello, Antonello, my good friend.
I know that everybody knows this famous Italian small surgeon, and I'm talking about his size. And actually, the first time he tried to explain me, to talk to me about the breathing motion, because my the project of my PhD was to try to simulate the breathing motion, because that's one of the things that we must be able to take into account and to compensate if we want to provide high quality intraoperative guidance using augmented reality. Then he took a pen and he directly write on the screen of my computer. And it was one of the first, screen that was very thin. And for me, it was crazy. And he told me, we are surgeons, we save patients. We are not going to talk about screen of computer anymore. And it was just amazing. And it was one of the first things that I have done with a surgeon. So he showed me the different motion. He explained me in detail why there are motion here, why they are not. And it was, for me, the first time I have really understood the link between the motion of the diaphragm and the abdominal wall and the sliding of the different organs. And without such information, it's just impossible to understand how it works.
Well, that is a great history. Tell me, what are you doing now? Which kind of project are you developing now? Because we are trying to robotize everything. We want this kind of augmented surgery. In fact, Jack said at the end that, the dream is a totally automatized surgery. Is it that possible?
Yes. Don't say it is crazy, please.
Professor Marek say it's possible. Because if I tell him we are not able to do that, he will say, okay, so I'm going to do it myself. So yeah, I've already said that many times. So, actually, in order to provide intraoperative guidance, we try to follow several approaches. I may talk about different projects. I may talk about the use of intraoperative images acquired in the op room, in the hybrid room. I may talk also about hyperspectral, multispectral images, allowing to see things that the human eye cannot see. But I do not have time enough. So today I'd rather like to talk about the use of ultrasonographic images, because today in the team, and especially with our extension in Ircad Africa, we try to work a lot with ultrasonographic images, because that obviously this is a very, very nice way to obtain intraoperative informations, and this is real-time images. So if we just try to introduce a little bit ultrasonography, of course this imaging method is painless, it's non-invasive, and it's compatible with the standard surgical tools. And so today, that there are already probes allowing to acquire a 3D volume of data. And so our goal is to use this volume of data, this information, to extract the structures and to be able to help the surgeon during the surgery. And we follow an additional approach. And the idea is to associate to a standard 2D probe a sensor allowing to provide the position and the orientation of the ultrasonographic image. And thanks to this couple of information, the position of the image plus the US image, we try to create a 3D volume of data. And this is a very useful tool. And thanks to this approach, we can create a volume that can be comparable to a CT scan. And with such information, we try, as I said before, to first of all to compute the registration with the preoperative image, such as a CT or MR image. We try to extract the different structures, the same thing that visible patient does, but with the US volume images. And so the idea is to be able to use this intraoperative information that can be acquired in real time, that can provide in real time the information about the motion and about the different, since we can also use AI to find some pathology that can be automated. And finally, now, if you want to create a bridge with the use of a robot, of course, if we are able to extract in real time from a US image the position of a target, then it's going to be easier, it's going to be associated to more security to use a tool such as a needle or something like that to treat the targets. So today we are looking to use ultrasonography more and more in the op room. And the last point, this is really less expensive than a standard CT scan.
Okay, I can understand that this technology, ultrasound, is available almost all over the world. And nowadays, we have a kind of device that you can carry in your own cell phone. It's an easy way to manipulate. So you are trying to develop some technology to facilitate the life of the doctors with a tool that are available everywhere. And I believe that this is very important, because at the beginning, the 3D modeling was done with MRI and CAT scan, what is a little bit more expensive. But probably this is more for solid organs, or any kind of areas can you apply this technology? What do you think, Alexander?
I think that today we mainly focus our work on liver and on kidneys, because this is the specialties of Ircad, especially in the abdominal part of the patient. But I think that's it's a limitless approach, and you know as a surgeon that when there is bones, when there is gases, of course it's a problem, and there are some limitations, the creation of shadow. But that's the reason why I think that there is this nice link to do between a preoperative image that is going to be acquired by a CT or by a MR imager, and also the intraoperative image that can be acquired with a US probe. And then it's possible to create this kind of registration that can be rigid, but we try to do a non-rigid registration, deformable registration, in order to have an information that is more, let's say, rich, more interesting for the surgeon.
Well, to develop this kind of work, how many people do you have today with you? Is all of these they work with you as an observer? You have a fixed team? How it works, and how you build this team? Is it by project? How it works for you?
So obviously we are working on several projects. I was talking about let's say one very interesting path for the future, because we are working with a lot in many projects. Now regarding your question about the number of people, I mean sometimes we are 25, sometimes we are 30. The idea of the Professor Maresco, so you know that he can see the future. So the idea of the Professor Maresco is to create a huge team in Ircad Africa that is going to be an extension of our team in Strasbourg. We are working very closely. We try to create some group of people working together in both parts of the world, and we also try to create a lot of connection with high-level team in the university, and also with the other Ircad. So we think about the future, about more and more connection with maybe Ircad China, and also with Ircad Brazil, of course.
Well, tell me, how do you pick these people? Which feature is important for you to work with you? So you say, oh, this guy I want to work with me. No, that guy I don't want. Which is the most important feature for you to work nowadays in a team like Ircad?
Okay, so I think that's that's the reason why I have really tried to explain what we would like to do with US images. First of all, we need a not really a project. We need a path. We need to know what we would like to do in the next year. And as Professor Maresco said, the final idea is to be able to use a robot. So finally, we would like to acquire data. We would like to create 3D modeling. We need to do registration. We need to. We also need to be able to plan the surgery. Then we need to acquire data intraoperatively. We need to extract data intraoperatively. We need to deal with registration. We need to be able to track different tools, and we need to visualize all this information. And so it means that we need to have a lot of skills in the team. So I can say that we must be able to deal with deep learning, of course. We use that more or less everywhere, but also with computer vision, with mechanical engine, with computer graphics, and data management, and a lot of other skills. So the idea that we need to have a huge team that is extremely well organized. And a point that is extremely important, and I would like to say a little hello to Johan Moreau, who was leading the team with me 2 years ago. I think everybody remembers him because he was a very nice guy. His idea has been maybe more than 10 years ago to say that we cannot be just a team made of a researcher. A team that cannot be 20 or 100 researchers, that's just impossible. We need a balance between research and development because we need to be able to integrate the work that is provided by the researcher. And a lot of things can be done also by the engineers that are more belonging to the, let's say, to the development part. So thanks to this organization, one of the very important points was to be able to create a kind of framework, a kind of, let's say, a big kind of library where all the different things that have been developed in the team can be concatenated and used together. Because let's say that you want to just move a tool using a robot, then you need to be able to control the robot. You need to know where is the tool. You need to know where are the different organs, how it moves. You need an intraoperative information of this motion, of this deformation, and and you need to visualize everything, and you need to maybe to have an interaction with the different tools. So without all the skills, it's just impossible to work. So I think that one of the amazing things that have been done in this team 10, maybe 12 years ago was to create this library. One part of this library is available for everybody, for the other research team. And this is a fantastic tool, and this is the only way with a very high level organization to reach our goal. And this is also a good opportunity for me to say how I am impressed by the work of the team, and maybe especially by our directors. I think about Flavien Brideau and Toby Collins. So Flavien Brideau for the software development and Toby Collins for the research, and that's extremely important to have this kind of information. And I think that's it really make a huge difference. Plus, of course, this amazing relationship that we have with medical staff.
Well, I can guarantee you should be very proud, because every time that I go there and I see your work and the work of our team, and I'm very, very excited with the things that you are developing and putting together. But you touched one important thing, no? In your team, you need special people, different kind of, and when you put these people together and they share, probably is the way to do the things. But imagine that we have a lot of young people watching us now. Imagine that I am a young boy, just lefting my high school, and I want to know where I want to go. Which kind of course you advise me to do to integrate your team? Is it computer science? Is it engineering? Which kind of course do you believe that is going to be the job of the future? If you have to choose.
As I tried to say before, actually, we are dealing with so many skills that actually it's extremely difficult to provide a nice answer to that. As I told you, we need people, specialists in deep learning, computer vision, computer graphics, data management. Now we are going to deal with robotics, with a new collaboration. Maybe I would like to say something about maybe about research, because you know that in the team we try to make augmented surgery, and you know that the idea is to allow the surgeon to surpass standard human cognitive skills, and to do that we need very high level researchers, and I can say that for the main part of them they do not exist yet.
Okay.
So I think that's one of the big challenge in the future, and it's part of our organization, of course, with the validation of the Professor Maresco. One of our challenge in the future is to be able to find the very high-level engineers, and then to provide them the opportunity to obtain a PhD diploma, and with a specialization with augmented surgery. And you know, that's to do augmented surgery, we need to deal with several skills. That's what I have explained. But I think that's, if you want to know what is the researcher of tomorrow, we need to be able to create him. And we have this approach, especially with Kigali. And the idea is to provide funding to help this very high-level engineers, because they have a very high level, to be able to go in France, in Europe, in order to obtain a PhD diploma, and then to be the best researcher in the future, maybe the best in Africa, maybe the best in this kind of area. I think this is the only option.
Well, it means that if I have money or grant to invest in some new people that are going to modify the future, probably this new skill set, it is augmented surgery guy, should be the one that I should invest my money. This is your vision.
That's exactly what I said.
Armando, can I make a question?
Yes, of course.
You can.
Okay, so one thing that's it's amazing, all the ideas and the thing that's, my question is for both is, if we compare the past and nowadays, when you compare the facilities that you have today and the facilities that we had in the past, what's Professor Marisco and Professor Alexandre, do you think that now we have more facilities, nowadays we have more facilities that's in the past? Or when you compare politics, when you compare money, when we compare how to manage all these things, do you think that today it's more difficult to create because we need more talks, more money, more ideas, or because we have more people today and the past not, so people think that the future could be this way? So when you compare the past and nowadays, in your
for me the question is the past for me, and the future is for Alexandre.
For you, it's when you compare today.
No, I haven't understood that. No. I think there is no difference. The big difference is just the power of the computer. I think that especially for Ircad, it's absolutely easier today to develop the project, because you know that it is so long for an institute to have a notoriety, an international notoriety. And I think that today, and that is also thanks to Armando Melani, to President Wang in Taiwan, now we have an image that never we imagined before, because we never expect to have an international expansion. It was not our goal. But now, because we have that, I think it's absolutely easy for us to have grants, to stimulate also people in the team, because what Alex said is how we can attract people and computer scientists, because we know that in some private big company like Google, Apple, etc., they have paid 3, 4, 5 or more times than what we can pay in France. So we need to attract young people, and we can attract that today and I think it's easier because we have Ircad now is very well running. We have the money to do that. They can ask material, etc. So for me, it's easier to do today than it was at the beginning. That you understand, it was so complex for me at the beginning to have money because nobody knew me, nobody knew the team, etc.
But today you have more
competition.
That is,
yes, but you know, competition is like. Do you think that the competition for robotic surgery is a big problem for Intuitive Surgical or Johnson & Johnson? No, the answer is no. They are just going to diffuse to more people. So no, I think this competition is absolutely positive.
Lindenberg surgery was the game changer for you in terms of money or not?
No.
Because notoriety came from what?
No.
Lindenberg.
No.
The word
it's
that
funny.
you know,
it's funny to see that when I travel in Asia, when I am introduced for Minister of Health, Minister of Research in Asia, it's always they say he's a guy who has performed Lindbergh operation, etc. But for me, no, it was a challenge like another one. I think it's a very important step because certainly in the next 10 years, it will be a diffusion of remote surgery by 5G, etc. So I think it was a very good step in the life of Ircad, but absolutely not the most important. I repeat, I think the most important step for us was a visit of President Wang first. That was in 2016. And after that, your visit to extend the Ircad in Brazil. So the extension in Asia Pacific, in Brazil. After that, we had the demand in China, the demand in Africa. I think that the real big step of the international notoriety of Ircad was the globalization of the concept. And that I have to thank you, Armando, because you was one of pushing me also for China, because I have accepted this challenge because you say that you are going to support a lot this project in China and also in Africa. So.
Thank you. Alex,
okay. I would like to add a word.
What do you envision?
Sorry?
What is your vision related to that?
One part of the vision is very simple to have. Professor Maresco usually told me, don't think about the money, I will do that. Think about good project. Think about...
Not exactly. Not exactly. We have some limit.
No, we have some limit. I mean, that's first of all, it's a question of project. It's a question of motivation.
That's sure.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
And I also want to say, I just want to, if you allow me, dear Armando, I just would like to add that that today I strongly believe that we have reached a certain maturity. And I would like to say that these days, especially during the 2-3 last years, it's just due to the maturity, of course, nothing else. Actually, we are able to transfer different things. Today, we have, I think that's nice. We have both nice opportunities and also we have nice connections with the industrials of different size. And that's very important for the motivation. That's very important also to create new projects and to create new collaboration when you are able to transfer. And I would like to say that, there are some projects I cannot talk about here, obviously for the several reasons. But when you are able to take research, let's say research software dedicated to research and to turn this software into a software that can be used in the OP room, that's a huge step, and that's what we try to do these days. And I think that's we show every day that we are able to do that, and it's really easier than to think about new projects and to provide new features for the OP room. It was really a very important step for us.
Well, I want to ask you about this motivation. Which is your personal motivation for that? Is it money? Because everybody says that I'm going to create something, I'm going to be rich. Is that work?
This is a question for Professor Maresco.
The question is for me or for Alex?
No, for Alex.
This is so important for the people in the team and for me, of course, to understand that to feel that we can help the patient. It seems to be a very standard answer, but we are here for that. Because as Professor Maresco said, and I would like to make a joke about some of my best friend was working now in a bank, but I think that's we are working at the Ircad Institute. You know what it means? That's crazy. When you can just talk with your family for Christmas and they say, what is your job? You say, I'm working in a bank, or say I'm working at Ircad. Well, can you show us the new presentation? Of course I can. Yes, and that's I mean, if you want to talk about your job, if you want to talk to your grandmother about your job, well, that's sexy when you work at Ircad. Sexy, really.
Well, I know that you share these feelings of creating the knowledge that are going to help people, and I believe this is the main purpose of all of the work developed in Ircad. And this is why since the last year, we have in Brazil a booth camp for young people that want to develop something. We offer them a challenge, and they have 1 week to do that. That is the best course. Was done in France first, and then after in Taiwan, and nowadays we are also doing in Brazil. We did the first one last year, December last year. It was an amazing experience. And what do you think? Do you think that this booth camp is good to develop ideas or to at least show people how they're gonna do working in this kind of area? Because when we gather together these engineers and these people from different areas, marketing, it was crazy to build this team and put them together to develop some solution in 1 week. At the end, when you see the solutions, it's amazing how it's well done and crazy. What do you think about this process, this kind of booth camp? Is it important for you, Jack?
Yeah, for me, I have to say that, we had not the idea to do that in Ircad at the beginning, but the story is an exceptional story. One day, that was, I think, more than eight years ago, something like that, a young student from medical school of Holland sent me a mail, and it was certainly one of always I answer to all my mails. And this one I didn't answer. And you know what she did? She came in Strasbourg without any appointment, and she opened my door. She was a long blonde from Holland, and she said, I have to introduce myself, etc. So we discussed during more than 1 hour, and she explained me what she wanted to do. And she said, it's impossible to do that in Holland. They don't believe in my project. And that was the best project. I was totally impressed because, a student of 4 years school, medical school, when I remember how I was a student at this period, I was just, learning, etc., totally not open mind. So she was so clever, and she starts the best course, I think, more than 7 years ago now, by herself. She developed a website, and she attracted thousands of students in the world. Very brilliant student, open mind student. And after that, because she met also Silvana Peretta, so we decided to put together the two brains, and that's a success. And, to put together medical students, people in finance, people in IP, engineers, it's the best way to change the culture of a medical student. And, you speak about the money some minutes ago. I totally agree with the answer of Alex. They believe that they are part to support people, to help people. It's good. But by the technological transfer, I think it's also a good approach. And when I was a visiting professor at Stanford, in all the doors you have, if you operate every day, you can save maximum 200 people per year. If you have a great idea, you will save millions of people, and you will be rich. And I think the message is very important. You have not to be rich through the patient. You have not to be rich just because you operate. You can be one day rich because you have a good idea, you transfer the technology, that's good for all the society, and you can have a return on investment. So I was impressed by this message in all the doors of Stanford.
Oh,
so perhaps, Alex, one day you will be also rich, not only happy and rich.
Well, I believe this is a great final message. I would like to thank you all for being today with us in this morning in America, in this evening in France, and late night in Asia. together to discuss and put all of these ideas. For us, it was very important to see the experience behind of the fact of not only Lindenberg surgery and the work done nowadays in Ircad by with a team of Alexander and all the people that are working over there. So I appreciate your comments and your talks. Thank you very much to share with us. And I believe this is a great example for you, young guy, that wants to do something to change the world. And probably this is the pathway to follow. Luis, I'm gonna let for you now, and I thank you very much, Professor Marco, for your kind words in directed to me.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Luis, and thank you, Armando.
Thank you,
Alex,
guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope see you soon. And one thing that's nice and important to say is this work is possible because all the teams together. Thank you for people from Ircad France, Ircad Africa, and Ircad Taiwan, and together all the AV team that promotes. We have maybe I think that's more than 300 people, and translation for the Spanish and Portuguese also. So I hope see you everybody soon, personally or in live. And I think that's
on.
Yes, yes.
Foie gras is waiting for you, Armando.
And one thing is, just to remind, in July 1st, we will have a next live. So people will be attention and be aware in the Facebook and web page in Ircad, July 31st. Yes, and we'll be able for the next live. We show in some days the people that you talk. Thank you again. Thank you for this opportunity, and see you soon, guys. Thank you, Alex. Thank Professor Marisco, Professor Melanie.
Thank you.
Thank
Goodbye,
you,
everybody.
Bye. Thank
Goodbye.
you.